Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Johanna and welcome to my cozy book space. So for today's video, I'm going to be doing my May wrap up. I read 18 books in the month of May, so let's get right into it. Hopefully this goes smoothly and quickly. Okay, 18 books is a lot and I did not do a mid-month wrap up. First book I ended up picking up in the month of May was Ink by Jade Hernandez. So we have our hero Ink and our heroine Xiomara. At least that's how I'm saying it, but she goes by Zio, like X-I-O. You know, I think I'm saying that right. Zio is struggling to keep a job because of her episodes. She is needing a job very badly. She needs these jobs to support her family, her mom, and she feels like a disappointment to her mom because she cannot keep a job. She ends up finding a job at this tattoo shop. Ink is the owner of this tattoo shop and this is how they meet. She is the receptionist. Ink is part of a motorcycle club. Ink is very, very grumpy. He's kind of borderline mean, but I did really like that Zio didn't take any of his bullshit. She really just kind of kept her head down and did her job because she didn't want to lose another job. One thing I didn't like about this book is the whole calling women bitches. That's kind of like biker culture, but it's not my favorite. It doesn't happen that often in this one, but there are a few scenes where our hero calls women bitches and it's just not my favorite. There were a lot of things that I loved about this book. I loved the Latinx representation. I loved that the hero and the heroine both spoke Spanish. There was Spanish in the book as well. Some of the dialogue was in Spanish, which I loved. It was kind of what I was looking for, so it definitely hit the spot. Again, the hero was very questionable, but I slowly but surely warmed up to him. He's just very possessive and protective over the heroine, and just like the heroine, she ended up warming up to him, and they do have a connection. They do find each other attractive. Our heroine's home life is not the best, and our hero, after he decides that she is his, he kind of just takes this provider role in her life, and I just loved seeing it. He cares for her and he protects her. There is definitely some sort of plot in here. There's like a bad motorcycle club coming to get them. They do run into Zio. Zio ends up having one of her episodes, and Ink is definitely there for the aftermath. And I love that he didn't judge her. He kind of was just like, oh, wow, like you're kind of a badass, but kind of scary at the same time. But yeah, I really, really enjoyed it. The plot was entertaining. The spice was spicing. There was a little bit of a Spanish dirty talk, which I loved and I was here for it. Overall, I gave this one 4 stars. Next book I ended up picking up in the month of May was Vicious Union by Jocelyn Soto. I mean, you guys, look at this cover. It is so beautiful, but I did end up DNFing this book. We have our hero named Leo, our heroine named Serena. I don't really know how to, because I don't want to like bash on this book, but it was pretty bad. It was giving very much insta love. Like the hero and the heroine, the moment that they see each other at this club, right? I don't know. I didn't get that far into it. It was everything about it that I didn't love, and I just didn't care enough. The writing, the characters, it was insta love. Some of the dialogue was just not for me, and it sucked. It broke my heart because one, it is a Latinx author, and also this cover is beautiful, and it just didn't hit the mark, and it was very, very disappointing. After that, I ended up picking up Love Her or Lose Her by Tessa Bailey. We have our hero Dominic and we have our heroine Rosie. They are experiencing some struggles in their marriage. This is a marriage in trouble romance. There's a lot of things that I loved about this book. This is a reread of mine. I didn't really know what I wanted to read, so I decided to pick up a book that I knew that I had previously loved, and I wanted to see if my rating had changed, but my rating didn't change. It was a 4 stars. So we have our heroine who has just kind of had enough of the dynamic that she has with Dominic, and Dominic seems very complacent. The fact that Rosie tells him that she's leaving, that she can't do this anymore, really kind of opens his eyes to every single problem in their marriage. I loved the couples therapy aspect, and I love the love language aspect. I know a lot of people didn't like that, but that could be a really big rift in marriages, especially because you don't know how your partner receives love and you yourself don't know how you receive love. So you may be loving somebody, but they don't feel that because it's not the way that they receive love. I love that whole aspect, and I love them figuring that out and then working towards their marriage and doing these little things so to make sure that that person feels loved. And it's just so cute. Our hero definitely was giving our heroine's love language to her, but he wasn't speaking and showing them, so she never knew about it. It is Tessa Bailey, so it's fun in some aspects. I love seeing the womanhood, especially with that club that they have going on in this small town, and I loved seeing Rosie accomplish her dreams and having Dominic support her in the long run, and the spice was just Chef's kiss was so good. It was definitely giving Slow Burn because one of their rules for counseling was not to be intimate with each other. So it was giving definitely Slow Burn, and Dominic is just a very physical man, okay? And the things that he was saying was so good. 4 stars. Again, I loved it. I loved it so much. Fourth book that I ended up reading was Wed to the Grendel by Carl Wilde. This is about our hero Branthar and our heroine Teal. So for this one, we have our hero is a Grendel. So what he looks like on the cover. He's very ugly to me anyways. He is in his village and he's surrounded by his family, his brothers, they're all married, they have mates. He just refuses to want one. He does not want a woman, he does not want a wife. He's very happy in his solitude. His brothers don't believe him, so they send Branthar's blood to the marriage temple to get matched up with his true mate. Then it's the hero who eventually finds out when he gets a match. He's going to this temple to refuse his mate. He doesn't want one. Then he sees her and then she's like, oh, give me a chance, you know, like we can spend at least a little bit of time together and get to know each other, etc., etc. I gave this one 3 stars. I thought it was okay. I didn't really like that the hero didn't really consent to his blood being taken and sent to this marriage temple, especially because he didn't want a wife, and he was very adamant about that. It was being repeated throughout the story. So at the end, when they finally got together and he eventually falls in love with her, because they are fated mates and they're like meant to be together, it was hard to believe because of how much he like refused it, you know what I mean? So 3 stars for me. Then I ended up reading Wed to the Basilisk by Layla Faye. I do love me some Layla Faye. We have our hero Voss and our heroine Alina. Voss is giving this reptilian man, okay? His race is dying. He is the last one of his race, so he sends his blood to this marriage temple so he could get his fated mate. Alina comes to this marriage temple. She finally gets a match. She has been trying to get a match because she wants to leave this very abusive family dynamic that she has going on, and she's also running away from an ex. So when they both finally meet at this marriage temple, they are alone and they meet in the room where they're going to get married, and they have this very like intimate connection, and like they see each other. She's not immediately afraid of him. They're just kind of intrigued by each other and they feel this pull towards each other. So they eventually, you know, get married, but when they're leaving this room to hop into a portal to go to the hero's home, the ex shows up, sees her, and is like threatening her, and our hero literally just stares at the ex, like looks him in the eyes, and he like immediately dies. So that's like his power. That's why a lot of people are afraid of him. Like nobody in the marriage temple like looks him in the eye because they're afraid, but he has like the you know, like with reptilians, they have like a second lid, so like blocks his eyes, you know, so like so like blocks his eyes so he's not just out here killing people by looking at them. But because he does this with the ex, he's protecting his mate. She immediately gets afraid because she had previously seen her ex kill somebody else that was close to her. She is like, I don't want to go with you, but then they have to go together to his home, and she's very, very reluctant and scared of him. You guys, I loved how needy and lonely the hero was. Like he just wanted to love and be loved, and you know, I love me a hero that is like 100% dangerous, but he is just like a teddy bear on the inside, and he was just on his knees for the heroine. One of my favorite quotes in like monster romances or kind of any romance in general is when the quote "I see you" is used. It has different meanings in every book, but in this one it's like he would literally die if she like looked him in the eyes while not being afraid, because that's like a sign of respect, and she did that when they first met. But after she got afraid of him, she wouldn't look him in the eye, and it literally hurt him, and it hurt me because I was like, no. So yeah, it is, I see you is used a lot in here, but I just loved it so much. I really did. And he would like never hurt the heroine. He would literally hurt himself before he hurts her. So he does give the heroine the opportunity of getting to know him like slowly on her own time, because she's like saying that she wants to leave, and he's like, no, like give me a chance. So that's one thing that I didn't love about it, is that the heroine was just so hesitant and like her actions were hurting the hero, but she was also valid in her feelings and why she was scared because of her trauma. So I give it 4 stars. I loved it. I definitely think that you should read it. I think it's cute. The spice was good. The hero was just on his knees for the heroine, and if you love that, I think you'll love this one. For book number 6, I ended up reading 1% of You by Michelle Gross. We have our hero Elijah and our heroine Hadley. So Hadley finds out that she's pregnant while she's at work, so she leaves work early to go back home, and she finds her boyfriend cheating on her, and she already has a daughter named Lucy. Lucy. But then fast forward, she's like with her daughter Lucy, she's pregnant and she's moving into this house, and she ends up moving right next door to the hero. The hero and the heroine don't meet until they like have a meet cute at the grocery store where Elijah steals a bag of chips from Lucy. He's very grumpy. I will say I didn't like Elijah from the bat. I think he was very, very judgmental and kind of mean for no reason. He was giving no woman would ever make me fall in love with them. Like no woman has ever captured my attention like that. And I was just like, okay. Some things that I didn't love, the writing was a little quirky for me. Again, Hadley was a little bit annoying with her dialogue. I also really hated the ex-boyfriend and his family. Like their involvement in this romance just made me so angry. It's like you have a parent who has to put her kids first, and Hadley does that, but she also doesn't put herself first, and I hated it. Like she never stood up for herself. She allowed her ex-boyfriend and his family to treat her horribly, and until she meets Elijah, he's the one who like stands up for her. And like the first time that he does stand up for her, like she gets mad at him, but then she like takes a step back and realizes, you know, like he wasn't in the wrong. But overall, like I really hated them. Like if I could kill somebody in a book, it would be the ex-boyfriend and his family. Like the grandmother, the things that she would say, that whole grocery store scene literally gave me the hives. I was so angry. I just wanted to kill somebody. I guess some things that I loved about this is I loved the single parent trope and all that entails, especially with like Elijah taking care of Lucy, and then the baby when it's born, when Elijah taking care of Hadley when she has really no one to take care of her. He was there for the birth of the son. He was there when she needed help with like any home related things. They spent a lot of time together. I loved Elijah's involvement with the kids. He really did fall in love with the kids first before he officially fell in love with Hadley, I think. So I really like that. I like the caring aspects. I like the forced proximity. They would literally see each other, even though they didn't like each other in the beginning, they would see each other all the time because they lived right next to each other. And just the idea of a man falling in love with a woman and her kids, like especially like kids that aren't his own, like it's just something so heartwarming about that. And I love the banter between Lucy and Elijah. Slow burn, but the spice was good as well. So I ended up giving this 3 stars. Next book I ended up reading was Darkest Sins by Neville Altage. We have our hero Kai and our heroine Nera. A couple of tropes. These tropes are at the beginning of this book, so I thought I would tell you guys them to see if you're interested before I go too in depth. It is a grumpy sunshine, opposites attract, age gap, stalker hero. Only she can calm him down. He hates everyone but her. Touch her and you die. Tattooed and scarred hero. So basically, our heroine and our hero meet because our hero had just finished doing a job and he actually ends up getting hurt, and he is lying in the middle of the night on the sidewalk. Like he's sitting there bleeding out. He doesn't really have anything to live for. He's like, I did the job, I finished the job, and if I die, I die, right? Okay. So then we have our heroine who I think is leaving work because she is studying to be a vet. She is driving, she sees him, she pulls over to help him. That whole interaction right there, I loved, because she wasn't a dumb heroine. Like, yeah, she's like getting out in the middle of the night to help this stranger, like she never knows, and like he's bleeding. I certainly would not do that. But she is a mafia princess, so I feel like she's used to this stuff, and she leaves her car with like a gun in her back pocket, like in the back of her jeans. So like I knew that she wasn't like dumb, you know, like I was like, you know what, you smart, but you know, she wanted to see what's up. Nera ends up saving Kai. She ends up stitching him up and saving him, and this is their first interaction. Because she saved his life, he was really taken aback by that, especially because he hadn't done anything for her. He was like, why would you do this for me? So to repay her in a way, he said that he would protect her with his life, like he would keep her safe. So he begins to stalk her and she doesn't have any idea. She does have this sixth sense, which I also appreciate, where she feels like if somebody is watching her, especially like, you know, the hero, like she feels it in her bones. So I really liked that. Other things I loved is just how obsessed the hero was with our heroine and how he was very protective and possessive. I love the little things that he would do for her, whether she knew about it or not. He would literally like hurt himself so he could go see her physically and have a conversation with her because he needed a reason to go talk to her. So like she would stitch him up, and she would do such a horrible job, but he would do it anyways because he really wanted to see her and talk to her. And she was slowly falling in love with him because she was very curious about him, and she's never felt this connection with anybody else. They don't see each other that often. There are definitely time jumps in this story, so if you don't like that, I'm not sure if you'll like this one. I really love the moments where they actually talk to each other face to face because we got to see more of their dynamic, and every moment that they had together felt so emotionally charged. The tension and the chemistry was amazing. It was was definitely a slow burn. The spice was so good. Never Altage will never fail you with the spice. I will say that. I will say the only thing that I didn't love about this is the time apart. Like, I really wanted them to be more together, but the end, when they do finally come back, it is so sweet. It is so endearing. I loved seeing Kai in that like dynamic. So overall, I gave it 4 stars because I really did love it, and there was just so many quotes that I loved and so many scenes that I loved, and I think it's definitely worth the read. Then I ended up reading Flip by Brianna Michaels. We have our hero Trey and our heroine Erin. Trey is best friends with the hero in the first book, and the hero in the first book is Erin's brother, and Erin is the main heroine of this book. I feel like I made that more complicated than it needed to be, but basically Erin refuses to be with Trey because he is her brother's best friend, and like she's just known him for too long and all this stuff. She is a single mother and she's like very independent. She doesn't feel like she deserves somebody like Trey. He's just like too perfect or whatever. Anyways, I ended up DNFing this probably like past a little bit of the 20% mark. I just hated the heroine. I did hate the heroine. She was very wishy-washy. She could not make up her mind. She was very annoying and indecisive. She just basically did not want this perfect man for no valid reason. We had a lot of that where she was like, okay, I'm gonna stay with him, and then she'd be like, actually, never mind, like we can't be together. Well, I think we can make this work. Never mind, I don't think we can make this work. Literally every single time, and I was like, I don't know why the hero loves her so much. Like, what does he see in her? Because I don't see it. I don't see it. I didn't get it. The spice though, I did love Brianna Michaels' The Spice so well, but I did not connect with the heroine, and I just thought that the hero deserved better, so I DNF'd it because I knew that I wasn't going to love it. Then I ended up reading Mafia Devil by Mila Finelli. This is an MM romance, so we have our hero Theo and our other hero Nikolai. Nikolai sees Theo at this event and he pursues him the minute that he sees him on the low key because he's the head of the Russian mafia. If anybody found out that he was gay, he would literally be killed. Like, this is information that nobody could ever know. And so they have this one night stand and it is amazing, and I loved it. Mila Finelli does spice so well. And then they extend their little vacation onto a boat. Theo doesn't know that Nikolai is the head of the Russian mafia. Obviously, there are some iffy things, obviously the guns, and then the secretiveness of it all. So he has some inkling about it, but he doesn't know. Then he ends up eavesdropping on a conversation. He ends up finding out and he runs away, leaves our hero Nikolai heartbroken, devastated, so sad. And then it goes on from there. So basically the thing that I didn't love is that Theo left, like didn't give Nikolai the benefit of the doubt, didn't like let him explain what was happening. But I also get that Theo was valid because he didn't want a secretive relationship, which I understand, but also he should have heard Nikolai out. I feel like Nikolai also did a lot more for Theo than Theo did for Nikolai. I feel like Nikolai was a little bit more obsessed than Theo was, and I was like, I need that shit to be equal. Like, I needed Theo to be as equally obsessed with Nikolai, and I just didn't feel that. So anyways, things that I loved, that it was an MM romance. The spice, their dynamic was very hot. Nikolai was obsessed, rich, hot Russian man. If you loved that, I loved it. I loved it so much. The spice was amazing. I ended up giving it 3 stars because I really did enjoy it. Like 3.5. 3.5. I originally gave it 4 stars because I really did love it. But then the more like I was writing the synopsis and I was writing my thoughts about it, I was like, it's giving 3 stars because I really wanted Theo to love Nikolai as much as Nikolai loved Theo. Anyways, moving on. Then I ended up DNFing Banging the Easter Bunny Part 2 by Dahlia Davis. So I think in March, or when is Easter? March or April, I ended up reading like the first installment of this duet. And I thought that was enjoyable. But then in this one, I decided to continue it because like, did we get an HE8 in the first one? I don't even know. I DNF'd it. So this one, basically we have our heroine. She has to go through like this quest. She has to do a lot of trials to show, are these gods? Girl, I don't even know. But she has to like show that she deserves the hero. So she has to do all of these missions, but like the hero and her are never together. Like they're never together. Like she's doing these quests by herself and having like some side help. And there's like spice thrown in. Got through a lot of it. I'm pretty sure I like DNF'd it like at the 78% mark. But at one point I put it down and I just never picked it back up. I completely forgot that I was reading this. So when I saw that this was on my Goodreads currently reading, I was like, oh, I'm just gonna DNF this because I'm never gonna go back. So yeah, that's what happened with that one. Then I ended up reading Homestead by Claire Kent. This came out in May, I believe. And I love Claire Kent's post-apocalyptic romances. I love me that dynamic. So anyways, we have our hero Jimmy, which when I found out that his name was Jimmy, like when I was writing this down, I was like, was his name really Jimmy? Anyways, and then we have our heroine Chloe. Our heroine heroine has been living with her grandpa since the world went to shit. When they're going on this outing to like scavenge. Is that a word? I don't know. But like they're going out to go see what they find. End up going into this very dangerous territory. They end up getting chased. Her grandfather is killed and she ends up surviving because our hero ends up saving her. And then this is how they meet. Jimmy ends up taking Chloe to his home where it's like a little village. There are multiple people there doing multiple jobs, like just kind of living life as best as they can in this post-apocalyptic world. She starts learning new tasks immediately. She shows up and she's very grateful to have somewhere to go, especially because she's lived her whole life with her grandpa and she doesn't really know how to survive by herself. And so I really like that she was putting the work to deserve to be there. Then we have this situation where the hero offers the heroine to be like his stay-at-home wife, essentially. So he has his own place a little bit out of this little village. He asked her to join him in his home. She can handle the cooking, the cleaning, all of that stuff, and he will provide her with like protection and a home and all of these things. And so they kind of have this dynamic. They come up with the terms of their relationship, and she's never experienced anything like this, so she's very open to the idea, which I really liked. Some things that I loved was just the dynamic between them two, the spice. It was just very day-to-day life in these chapters. Like we just got to see them grow familiar with each other, like her doing her duties, him providing for her, she providing for him, them getting to know each other, kind of build a bigger connection. Obviously the chemistry, the tension was already there from when they first met. There was obviously something there, and the hero really likes our heroine. Loved how the hero was very caring, protective. I love the communication when needed. It didn't happen with a third act breakup, but like communication and other aspects needed to be had. They had it, and like he always asked her like what was wrong if she like seemed upset, because the heroine was really hard on herself because she wanted to be the best woman for him and like for herself the entirety of the book. Like she was really hard on herself. I loved that the hero gave her words of affirmation. I loved all the spice. Clark Kent's spice at the end of the world, so good. I don't know what it is. Everything else was just so good. It was amazing, guys. I gave it 4 stars. I loved it. After that, I ended up reading Audited by the Anubis by Wendy Go. I don't even know how I saw this. I think this was like recommended to me through like the Kindle app. And I was like, you know what? I like this cover. Let's see what it's about. We have our hero, Anu, and we have our heroine, Fern. Our heroine is the owner of this coffee shop or a bakery. I think it's a bakery. And she ends up getting a knock at her door. And it is our hero because he is from the tax agency, something with taxes. She's gonna be audited by the hero because he found that there was like something off with her business. They're immediately attracted to each other, like immediately. So it's very insta-love. We discover that the mom ain't shit and her ex-husband ain't either, okay? We have another horrible character. The mom was horrible to our heroine. There was just a lot of mean words thrown around, like just downgrading the heroine. Turns out it was a blessing in disguise that she got audited because she finds out all of this stuff that her mom has been doing behind her back, as well as her ex-husband. They enter this fake dating relationship to get her ex off her back, I think, but I'm also not sure about that. They enter this fake relationship for some reason, but it was just kind of a wishy-washy reason. I did like the relationship. I liked that the heroine was curvy. I liked that it was like fated mates. There was nodding in here. It was a sweet hero. The heroine was dominant in some ways, and then the hero was dominant in his ways, and then they would like switch. So yeah, I gave it 3 stars. It was enjoyable for what it was, but it could have been better. Then I ended up reading Curvy Girl and the Cowboy Next Door by Jessa Joy. This one is between our hero Chance and our heroine Brooke. So our heroine is a model. She needs a ranch for a photo shoot. Then she ends up staying at the ranch that the hero kind of manages. I ended up DNFing this at the 73% mark. I just thought the hero was annoying. They have like one spice scene, and then after the spice scene, he like leaves and he's like, you have to really think about why you want to be with me. I'm too old for you. This was a mistake. And he ends up leaving. And I'm just like, that's annoying. So I DNF'd it. Then I ended up reading Twisted Emotions by Cora Riley. This is actually a reread for me. I ended up giving it 4 stars. that was my original rating and I ended up sticking with that rating. We have our hero Nino and our heroine Kiara. Kiara was abused by her uncle for a very long time. So she has a lot of this trauma. She cannot be touched, doesn't want to be touched, and she's considered like damaged goods because she is no longer a virgin. Then we have our hero Nino. He is part of the Kimura family, and the Kimura family makes a deal with the other family. I can't remember the mafia names, but they make a deal. They have an arranged marriage, and we have Kiara, who is arranged marriage to Nino. And on their wedding night, Nino finds out what had happened and he kills her uncle on their wedding night. This precedes their relationship. So if you just like mafia romance, possessive, protective hero, literally touch her and you die, she is mine, all of that goodness, this one, definitely read it. Other things that I really loved was that we have an emotionless hero. Like, he doesn't feel any emotions, but I loved seeing him do these little things for Kiara and her comfort. I loved seeing him simulate emotions for her comfort, and then him realizing that he's no longer simulating, he's actually feeling these things for her, and he's just very distraught by that because he feels too much. And this is, I feel like his emotionless is like a coping mechanism because he does feel too much and everything that he went through as a child. The slow burn was amazing. The slow spice and the fact that Nino was just so caring, and the fact that he was slow in the spice with her, like teaching her and showing her that there is pleasure in sex. It was just beautiful but hot at the same time. Like, there's this one scene where he's like doing stuff to her, and then he like stops and she like makes a noise where she's like, no, like don't stop. And he's like, I'm shy. And he says something like after she does that, and I was just like, okay. Like, it was so good. Yeah, that moment lives in my head rent free for sure. The only thing that didn't make me give this book a 5-star was because I thought the ending was kind of rushed, but I also think there's like a second book, right? I think there is a second book about the relationship, and I think that's why the ending seemed kind of rushed. So yeah, there's that. Anyways, good time. Good fun time. And I just loved seeing all the other characters as well, especially Remo. I need to reread Twisted Pride for sure. Then I ended up reading Tongue Tied by Cassie Mint. Basically have a heroine who struggles talking to her garden teacher, and the hero is that garden teacher. She's literally like on a debate team. Like, she can talk and argue and like be vocal, and she did struggle when she was younger. She had a stutter, but when she's around the hero, she just gets way too nervous and her stutter comes back, and so she just doesn't say anything because she doesn't want to embarrass herself. The hero thinks that she is uncomfortable around him or that she doesn't like him, so he's very like sad about that. So there's definitely a lot of pining. You know, Cassie Mint novellas have a lot of pining, but eventually they get their shit together. The spice was really good. I thought it was very sweet. I really enjoyed it. I gave it 3 stars. Then we have Understudy by Cassie Mint. This is another novella. We basically have a heroine who is always the understudy of these plays, and then we have our hero who is a famous director, and he actually comes to this college to direct this college play of Romeo and Juliet. She ends up being the understudy again, but they have this instant connection, and the director ends up helping her out with like lines and stuff. I thought their attraction to each other was very obvious because like everybody who was in this play, in this classroom, knew that they liked each other, even though like there was this massive age gap, and like it seemed like there was nothing wrong with like the director dating a student, but like obviously that should have had repercussions, but it didn't have that forbidden aspect to this one. Again, it was a lot of pining. The spice was really good. The sneaking around, even though they didn't really need to, but like, you know, sneaking around for the spice, I really enjoyed. I did like Understudy more than I liked Tongue Tied though, so 3.5, 3 stars. Then I ended up reading Lost in the Wild by Cassie Mint. Basically have a hero who is an ex-soldier. He has PTSD, so he runs away into the woods, and he's been living in the woods in this cave for a really long time. And then we have our heroine. She is a journalist looking for the famous wild man, and she's very not quirky, but she's very like vibrant heroine. She is looking for the wild man. Our hero finds him, but he immediately is like, no, you need to leave, like I'm not going to talk to you. Like, he's very just like grunts and like bad vibe and kind of mean to her. So she leaves, but he like follows her to make sure that she gets out of the forest okay. Ends up tripping, twisting her ankle, and he carries her back to his cave. So yeah, there are cave scenes and I just love it. I love the fact that the cave scene provides the forced proximity. They're able to like talk to each other. He like finally opens up to her. There's definitely caretaking in here as well because she does twist her ankle and he nurses her back to health. There's also like a bath scene, which is really good too. Basically have our heroine also like trying to get the hero to come back to civilization, but he feels very unworthy of her and love, and he thinks that he is just too scarred and tortured and just has too much trauma to be able to love her properly. It was just so good. I just love me a tortured hero. After he says all these things, he does like acknowledge that he was just in a bad headspace, and he was like, no, I will fight for you. Like, you are my woman. So I loved this one. Like, I loved this one. So I give it 4 stars. Last book I ended up reading was Mate Finder by Leah Stone. I actually ended up DNFing this at the 28% mark. So I read this just to see if I liked this book before canceling my Arcane Society book box, because I don't know what month it was, but it was a book box and Leah Stone was the author. And they were saying that you could cancel it because the books didn't come with end papers. They said that you could cancel by this time. So I was like, well, let me see what Leah Stone is all about. And yeah, I didn't like it. I canceled the box. I just thought the writing of this was so bad. The pacing was even worse. Yeah, so we basically have our heroine. She is human and she ends up getting into this car accident, and then our hero, he is an alpha of his pack. He ends up turning her into a werewolf. She wakes up, she finds out she's a werewolf, all fine and dandy, whatever. She has to do like this dominance or submissive wolf test, and then she ends up finding out that there's fated mates and that the hero is her fated mate, and then the hero has to like fight for her to stay in his pack, and then she ends up finding out that her magic power is of mate finder, so she can touch somebody and then she can see their mate, and like mates are super rare, so now she's gonna be hunted for her entire life. And there was like so many things happening. I mean, she can't go back to her family because she's a wolf now. She has like trauma from her past where her father was very abusive to her and her mother, and she was just like fine with the fact that she couldn't go back, and she was just okay with everything that was happening to her, and it just didn't seem very realistic. The pacing, everything was like back to back, and I was like, nope. There was like no build up to her finding her mates, or like there was no slow burnness of it. Like they had already had their first kiss before, and girl, it was just too much. And I was like, I don't know why this was chosen for this box. I don't know what it is about this writing that people love. I don't know what it is about this book that people love. So I ended up canceling it, DNF'd it. So that's that. That was the last book that I ended up reading in the month of May. This video is so I didn't want to do this wrap up because I knew that it was going to take me so long to go through all of these books, especially because I didn't do a mid-month wrap up, but I really wanted to film this video to have a video up for you guys. So if you guys enjoyed this video and you want to let me know that you made it to the end of the video, then go ahead and leave me a wolf emoji down below in the comments for Mate Finder, even though I didn't like it. But it was the last book I talked about, so wolves are in my head right now. But let me know what your favorite book of May was, or what your favorite book currently is. I know we're in the middle of June, but just let me know. Again, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye guys.